Joseph's new coat. Joseph lived in a tent, a large striped tent out in the country. Jacob, Yaakov, his Abba, his father, owned many sheep. Yosef, Joseph's 10 big brothers, they herded the sheep on the hills round about. Joseph and little brother Benjamin took care of the lambs that had no mothers, no emas. Joseph and Benjamin fed the lambs from little clay bowls. They put their fingers down into the warm milk and let the lambs suck their fingers. The lambs' tails wiggle-waggled up and wiggle-waggled down as they drank their milk. It was the lamb's way of saying, "The milk is good, so warm and good." It was springtime. The days were sunny and warm, too warm for a coat. Joseph folded his coat neatly and put it away. He wouldn't need it until the chilly winds blew again. The sheep were warm in their woolly coats. "Maa, maa," they called. "We want our coats off too." "It's time to shear the sheep," said Jacob. Joseph and Benjamin brought the clipping shears. The big brothers laid the sheep down on the cool green grass. Oh, sorry, wrong sound. Clip, clip, clip went the clipping shears. The sheep were as quiet as could be while they were getting their wool cut. The brothers tied the wool into bundles and put it away. That's a donkey. The sheep looked different with their woolly coats off. The lambs didn't know their mothers. They ran here, they ran there, they cried, "Ma, ma, where's my mother?" But soon the mother sheep found their little lost lambs, just as Joseph and Benjamin knew they would. During the bright summer days, the lambs grew almost as big as their mothers. Joseph grew taller and bigger. Benjamin grew bigger too. And by the time the chilly winds began to blow, the sheep had grown new wool coats. Joseph went to get his coat, but his coat, his warm winter coat, was now far too small. "Go, bring a bundle of sheep's wool," said Father Jacob. "We'll make you a new coat, a coat of many colors." So Joseph brought a bundle of wool, and he brought the color pots. They colored the wool, red and yellow, purple and blue, orange and green, and they made some black. They twirled the wool on smooth spinning sticks and made it into fine wool thread. Jacob twirled, Joseph twirled, twirl, 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 whirl, whirl, went the spinning sticks. Longer grew the thread. Benjamin wound the wool thread onto spools.
She's telling us to be mad.
You're next to flip the page. Joseph set up the weaving frame under a spreading oak tree. Up and down, up and down. Jacob wound the frame with the wool thread. Then in and out, through the threads he wove a blue stripe. In and out went the weaving shuttle. Green stripes, purple stripes, orange stripes. Day after day, Jacob worked until Joseph's coat was just the right size. Joseph tried on his new coat of many colors. It was long like a man's. It had sleeves. "It fits you, my son, it fits you," said Jacob, well pleased with their work. "It's a pretty coat," said Benjamin. "It's a fine warm coat," said Joseph. "Thank you, my father and brother." Joseph and his brothers. Joseph showed his new coat of many colors to his 10 older brothers. They said, "Our father never made us coats of many colors." The brothers were angry, very angry, because of Joseph's new coat. They had covetousness, didn't they, in their heart? While Joseph lay sleeping, he dreamed a dream, a strange dream. He dreamed he and his brothers were in the field tying sheaves of wheat. Suddenly his sheaf stood up straight and tall. His brothers' sheaves gathered around and bowed to his sheaf. Joseph told his brothers the strange dream, and they said, "Do you think we're going to bow down to you?" The brothers were angry, very angry, because of Joseph's strange dream. They sound jealous. Joseph's brothers went to a faraway place to find green grass for the sheep. And when they had been gone a long time, Father Jacob said to Joseph, "Go, see if your brothers are well, and if it's well with the sheep." So Joseph put on his coat of many colors. He said goodbye to his father. He said goodbye to his little brother Benjamin. And then he began the long, long walk. Joseph walked and walked and walked, and at last, from the top of the hill, he saw his brothers and the sheep camped by the road that leads to Mitzrayim, Egypt. Joseph shouted to them. He waved to them. He was happy to see them. But Joseph's brothers were not happy to see Joseph. They said, "Here comes the dreamer." And when he came near, they took hold of him. They pulled off his coat of many colors and threw him in a deep pit. Joseph begged them to take him out of the pit and let him go home. But they paid no attention to his cries. They sat down and ate their lunch, and they didn't even give Joseph a crust. Down the dusty road that leads to Mitzrayim, Egypt, came traders with their camels.
I don't see him.
Said the brothers, "Let's sell Joseph to the traders." So they took Joseph up out of the pit, and they sold him for... Anybody remember? 20 pieces of silver. The trader took Joseph and went on their way. From the road, Joseph could see the hills where his father's tent was pitched. He knew Benjamin was there with his father. If only he could be there too. Joseph cried and cried and cried. And then Joseph stopped crying. He said, "I'm going to be brave. And my God, Yahweh, He will take care of me." Down in Egypt, the traders sold Joseph to a man named Potiphar. And Joseph had to work hard. His legs got tired, his back got tired, but he did his work well. And when he swept the floors, he was careful to sweep even in the corners. And when he pulled weeds in the garden, he pulled every last one. Potiphar said, "You're a good worker, Joseph." Joseph learned to talk like the people of Egypt. He wore clothes like the people of Egypt. He cut his hair like the people of Egypt. But there was one thing he would never, ever do like the people of Egypt. The people of Egypt prayed to an
idol.
Yep. Or a cat, or sometimes even a frog. But Joseph prayed always to the God of heaven, as Jacob his father had taught him. Many, many years went by, and Joseph grew to be a very wise man. Now it happened that the king of Egypt wanted a very wise man to build storehouses, to fill the storehouses with corn. And the king said, "Where could I find a man wiser than Joseph? I will get Joseph to build the storehouses. I will have Joseph fill them with corn." The king made Joseph ruler of Egypt next to him. He said to the people of Egypt, "Whatever Joseph says, you must do." Joseph rode in a shiny chariot. He drove a team of prancing horses. Joseph built the storehouses for the king, and he filled the storehouses with corn. Then came the time of no rain, and because there was no rain, nothing grew. There was no corn for the people to eat, and no corn for the cows or horses. The people cried to the king, "Give us corn or we will die." The king said, "Go to Joseph, he can help you." So Joseph opened the storehouses and he sold the people corn. One day Joseph saw 10 little donkeys with empty sacks on their backs coming toward the storehouse where he was selling corn. And beside the 10 little donkeys walked his 10 older brothers. The brothers didn't know Joseph, but Joseph knew them. And they bowed to Joseph with their faces to the ground. And then Joseph remembered the dream about the sheaves of wheat. Remember, the brothers said they wouldn't bow down. Did they bow down?
Yep.
They sure did. Joseph talked with his brothers, but he didn't tell them who he was. Not yet. "Is your father well?" asked Joseph. "Do you have any brother?" "Our father is well," they said, "and we have a younger brother at home." "When you come to buy corn," said Joseph, "bring your younger brother with you." So Joseph filled their empty sacks with corn, and the 10 little donkeys went home. The brothers came again to buy corn, and this time Benjamin was with them. Joseph stood up before his brothers, and they still did not know him. Then he said, "I am Joseph." Benjamin was happy to see Joseph, but the 10 older brothers were afraid. They said, "Joseph, he will punish us for selling him to the traders." But Joseph said, "Don't be afraid, come to me." And he hugged Benjamin and all his brothers. They didn't tell about the silver cup either, did they? Or Potiphar's wife. Joseph's brothers were now kind men. They were sorry for what they'd done. Joseph gave each of them a new coat. He sent them home with his brothers and many gifts for Jacob their father. He sent wagons to move them all down to Egypt, where there was plenty of corn. Joseph watched the road, and one day he saw the wagons he had sent and the 10 little donkeys and his brothers with their father's sheep, all coming down the road to Egypt. Joseph jumped in his chariot and galloped his horses down the road to meet them. When Jacob saw Joseph coming, he climbed down from the wagon. Joseph jumped down from the chariot, and he ran to his father. He threw his arms around him. He hugged him and hugged him. Now Joseph and his father and Benjamin and his 10 older brothers would all live together happily in the land of Egypt.